a real stranglehold on this format.
Yeah, we saw Brad Nelson played the red-white burn deck at Nashville a couple weeks ago, and the deck looked pretty solid. I think he started off 3-0 or 4-0, and he was playing 4 Searing Blood main deck because it was so good with Satyr Fire Dancer, but it doesn't look like Vincent's playing those in the main, but he does have 4 in the board. So. No, I'm sorry, that's Fire Drinker Satyr. Excuse me.
We're underway here in game number 1 of round 9. Ash Zealot going to come across here for Lakey. He does have Temple of Triumph and Mountain as his lands. Yeah. Segal going to play a couple swamps and just pass the turn back, repping a removal spell.
Yeah, I mean, it seems likely he's got Bow Blight or some removal spell here. If he doesn't have anything, he's just in a lot of trouble, but...
There is Bio Blight going to take care of the Ash Zealot. Phoenix going to come across for 2, and I know you have obviously a lot of experience playing Mono Black with 2 Grand Prix top 8s with it. How much do you care about Chandra's Phoenix when it's across from you?
I care about it a lot. Like, you don't have ways to exile it, and it's actually one of the reasons, not that card specifically, but other cards similar to it, is the reason why I'm considering playing Guild in the deck. Guild is a card out of Born of the Gods, which is a 4-mana removal spell at sorcery speed that exiles a creature, giving you a gold counter, of all things, that you can tap, or that you can sacrifice it for an extra mana. The mana not as relevant in the current builds of the Mono Black because they are not really, they're very curve based, and the more you just like hit your land drops, you want to just like chain up to bigger spells, so you don't really want like one-shot mana things. But being able to exile things like Afara, Thassa, Chandra's Phoenix, cards that are just normally very tough to deal with, is pretty cool. So, I mean, I haven't seen it catch on, obviously, at all, but I've been playing a little bit of Block Constructed on Magic Online, and it's been very good there, and I feel like it could very easily translate to real life, so.
Segal going to come across with Nightfell Spectre. It leads me that he might have another one. That Desecration Demon will do just fine as well. So he reveals Immutavault. Won't be able to play that until next turn. But the 6/6 is in play here for Mono Black. On the other side, like he just played a Boros Reckoner and passed the turn back. Does draw a Sacred Foundry and is going to play that Foundry untapped. So we'll see what he has on this turn.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to Chain of the Rocks to Desecration Demon, get that out of here. And then probably has a 3-drop since he did shock himself here.
So after he organizes where he puts the chain and everything, he's got another Phoenix.
This is really bad for Michael, obviously, because him attacking with the Nightfell Spectre means that he basically took 4 points of damage for not a whole lot of value. He did get the Mutavault from Vincent, which is pretty key, but if he had hit any red spell and stalled on the land there and not been able to play the Grey Merchant of Asphodel, he would have been just actually dead. So
Grey Merchant's going to be a drain for 5 and a gain for 5, more importantly. So Segal goes to 11, Lakey's at 14. Lakey's going to play, it looks like Sacred Foundry untapped again. They're going to go down to 13.
Yeah. This feels like Stormbreath Dragon.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. So now the 4/4 Flyer's shown up, and again, he's just going to attack with everybody, and this is a really, really bad spot here for Segal.
Yeah, I mean, he's not at a very high life total, but his opponent also isn't very high on life either, and he does have 2 Mutavaults. He has 8 power total in play. If he peels another Grey Merchant, he's going to have Xaxes for the drain damage coming back. If he soaks it all here, he's going to take 9. But if he blocks with Grey Merchant, then his Grey Merchants off the top are no longer live to actually kill his opponent. So he's actually playing pretty well here to give himself the draw, or the outs to draw a Grey Merchant. However, if he doesn't draw it, I'm pretty sure he's just dead. And another Swamp with a Thoughtseize in hand is not going to cut it against this board full of really tough to beat monsters from Vincent.
Yeah, I guess, you know, it's obviously a tough spot there. And, you know, we go back to the Nightfell Spectre attack. Should he have made that attack in the first place? And it's pretty difficult to say, especially when you have Desecration Demon, because obviously Red-White has a very small number of answers to that card. It's basically Chain of the Rocks. So,
sure.
You know, you're basically saying, do you have Chain of the Rocks or not right now?
Yeah, and Michael here, he has the potential to not actually be dead if Vincent has absolutely nothing, which he has no cards in hand. So the way that Michael can actually play this turn is he can attack with at least 1 Mutavault, possibly both, and then block Boros Reckoner and the Stormbreath Dragon, taking 2 from the Reckoner's triggered ability and 2 from the Chandra's Phoenix, keeping him at 1 life with Vincent at 7.
Yeah.
But he's leaving himself with virtually no outs because both of his creatures are going to be, well, maybe the Grey Merchant doesn't die, but...
Well, somebody drew a spell here. I believe Lakey did.
Yeah, feels like another Chandra's Phoenix.
You are correct.
Whenever they start separating their lands into a pile of, 2 or 3, it's usually pretty easy to tell what's coming. And it looks like that's going to close the door here for Michael. So
yeah, everybody comes sideways. If Nightfell Spectre gets in front of Stormbreath, and this way, and then Boros Reckoner's triggered ability just goes upstairs.
Yeah, he's just going to dome him for 2, and Michael's only out as if he misses the Boros Reckoner trigger, but...
Yeah, okay. And he says, yep, that's going to go upstairs, and that's going to do it. So Vincent Lakey is going to win game number 1, over Michael Segal. Red-white aggro up a game over black-green devotion. Now, you've got Segal's sideboard in front of you, so let's take a look at those 15 cards and see what you would do.
Sure. So his sideboard has a lot of cards that are very good against like most aggressive decks. Like he has a Singleton Doomblade, some Lifebane Zombies against like green-white, and you know, like Golgari Charm's pretty good against like Master Waves and a few other cards. But honestly, against like red decks like this, you need to be cutting Underworld Connections and Thoughtseize, and he just doesn't really have enough like actual cards to bring in. Like bring in Lifebane Zombie is okay, but doesn't really do exactly what you want him. Much better in the versions to play like 1 or 2 Whip of Erebos, because then you can actually start using those to race. The 3 power becomes more relevant. Here, you know, he's going to get real lucky on the play if he hits a Boros Reckoner out of Vincent's hand, or, you know, perhaps just apply some pressure and draws like a lot of removal back up, and Vincent doesn't have a removal heavy draw. But other than that, he doesn't have a whole lot going on. Maybe wants a couple duresses to, you know, hit all the removal spells, but he also doesn't know Vincent's list per se. And all we saw that game was Chain of the Rocks and like 7 creatures. So yeah, it could be he doesn't bring in duress, and I think duress could end up being a big player in this game, being able to strip away one of the Chain of the Rocks out of Vincent's hand to protect his Desecration Demon or even his Lifebane Zombie. But yeah, considering what he saw, it seems unlikely that he's going to be bringing in duress.
Lakey's sideboard over here is a little bit different. He's got 4 Fire Drinker Satyrs, a card that we've seen in the sideboard of red-white devotion decks to be able to have a more aggressive start. We'll see if those come in here, especially with Lakey on the draw. Be a little interesting. 4 Skull Cracks seem like they're pretty good in this particular matchup. Shut down those Grave Merchants, shall we?
Man, I got so much to say about Skullcrack, and I don't think any of it would be able to be put on air. So.
2 copies of Mizzium Mortars, 2 Spark Troopers, 2 Faded Conflagration, and then another Chain of the Rocks to go along with the 3 in the main deck. I predict we'll probably see that 4th Chain of the Rocks come in, because shutting down either Nightveil Spectre or Desecration Demon is pretty important here.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that along with the 4 Fire Drinker Satyr is actually a pretty solid plan. Fire Drinker Satyr being one of the ways you can sideboard into a much more aggressive shell against decks like Black-Green Devotion and Blue-White Control. One of the easiest ways for you to get a leg up against black decks is to just flood the board. Not a whole lot of them play Drown in Sorrow or even really would want it in this matchup because it doesn't kill that many creatures. And so you can kind of safely assume that not everyone is going to be on that card. So having a lot of cheap creatures to apply pressure, sort of bottleneck the removal because your creatures all cost less mana than the removal spells, and then hopefully finish them off with a few burn spells at the end.
Now, you mentioned something when Segal was sideboarding that I think is a really interesting thing that you brought up, and it has to do with Thoughtseize. You know, a lot of people have varying opinions on how Thoughtseize is against a red-white aggro deck or a base red blitz deck where, you know, thought process is, well, this card's probably going to deal me more than 2 points of damage, so I can leave Thoughtseize in and be able to take something that's going to deal me more than 2, and that's actually productive in addition to getting information of what their hand is.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is some merit to leaving in Thoughtseize in matchups like this. Like, there are some times where I'll be playing some, like Legacy, for example, and I'll have Thoughtseize in my deck, and I'll leave it in my deck because being able to take stuff like Flame Rift, Fire Blast, etc., gives you those few points of life. However, without something like Brainstorm in your deck or a way to, you know, other than Pack Rat to turn it into, like, you know, not card parity. I don't know what I'm trying to really say.
I mean, basically turning into something that is useful.
Yeah, I mean, if you draw Thoughtseize on turn 7 or whatever, it's not going to do anything at all. And it's just not a card that I ever want to draw other than on turn 1. Because, I mean, being able to strip like a Stormbreath Dragon or an Ash Zealot on turn 1 is fine. But in a matchup like this, you want all of your cards to be good at every single point in the game. And if you don't have your deck set up like that, it's going to be very easy for you to draw too many awkward cards in awkward situations. Like, for example, there's the old saying of there are no wrong threats, only wrong answers. Mm-hmm. And I think that holds very true to this matchup in particular, as well as Standard in general, because all if you see like all the mono blue devotion decks and things like that are just very threat oriented, and they just force the opponent to have the Supreme Verdict, force them to have the Bile Blight, or, you know, something to interact with them, and it's really hard to have all those answers. So.
Well, speak about forcing to have an answer. Magma Jet here for Pack Rat. Certainly important that you killed immediately in this matchup.
Yeah, I think that's true. Vincent doesn't really have anything in his main deck. He does have the potential to bring in Mizzium Mortars, but if the Pack Rat, you know, gets 1 or 2 copies in play, can very easily race, you know, any sort of medium-sized threat that he could put on the table. Boros Reckoner does brick wall it for a little bit, allow you to buy some time to fly over the air with Chandra's Phoenix, Stormbreath Dragon, or just use your burn spells like aggressively, but definitely want to kill that on site for the most part.
Segal has a very, very land-heavy hand. You're going to see Lakey cast a Magma Jet here on the end step to go upstairs to Segal, put him down to 18, but more importantly, scry 2 and set up the rest of this game.
Yeah, and this is actually something we were talking about before the broadcast. People, I think, cast Pack Rat on turn 2 way too often in this format. Obviously, if you have an early discard spell and you take their 1 removal spell, it's fine because then you can start making Pack Rats on turn 3. But in this matchup, the black-green deck has to just be the control deck, and you can't end up getting flooded at any point in the game, and Pack Rat on turn 5 allows you to discard your 6th land or your superfluous removal spell if your opponent isn't playing very many creatures like Vincent's doing this game. Here, Michael's just playing Visara on 5. If this was a Pack Rat and making a token, he might have the potential to actually just take over the game or turn one of his lands into a way to force his opponent to discard Magma Jet, which would be huge.
So we see Vraska show up here, and this is a little bit interesting because I don't know if we've ever had assassins on camera. I'm not saying it's impossible.
I don't think we got those tokens laying around.
I'm not sure if we do either, but we're getting pretty close. It only takes 7 to get up to the assassin tokens, which could actually be a path to victory here for Segal. I say it's something to think of for you guys at home. You might see a one-shot kill here. Yeah,
Vraska, a pretty sweet card in its own right. I personally love this card. It comes in with so much loyalty. It's one of the very few planeswalkers, similar to Jace Architect of Thought, where you just have to send so many things at it to kill it because it has such a high loyalty, but punishes the opponent for trying to interact with it. The whole flavor, I love it with, it's a Gorgon, and if you look at a Gorgon, come face to face with it, you just explode into a pile of rocks or whatever. So I definitely love Vraska as both flavor and just a card in general. So
here's a Temple of Triumph from Lakey, so he's looking for something to scry. He's going to looks like this card's going to go down to the bottom. Taking a look at Lakey's hand right now as well, he does have Skullcrack, he also has Chain of the Rocks. He doesn't have a lot going on. As Fire Drinker's here is going to come across here, there's a Devour Flesh to take care of that.
Yeah, I think this would actually be a prime spot for Michael. I think he's actually just about to take over the game because Vincent doesn't really have a whole lot going on. He had a very burn-heavy draw, not a lot of creatures. Turn 6 Fire Drinker Crusader, not going to get the job done, or excuse me, turn 5. And Michael's hand just looks like it's full of removal spells. It looks like he's probably on the assassin plan because Vincent is very unlikely to have Mizzy Mortars in his deck after game 1.
So Skullcrack put Vraska down to 4. It's going to take up to 5 now. Mutavault's going to come into the red zone. It's going to knock Lakey down to 19. He's going to pass the turn back now. Again, Segal does have a Golgari Charm in his hand. Also has Hero's Downfall as well. So creatures are actually kind of under lock here a little bit.
Yeah, and the funny part is that Vincent, with his Chain of the Rocks in hand, is going to hopefully get Desecration Demon or something, and then he's just gonna get blown out by Golgari Charm and smash in the face for 8 points of damage alongside the Mutavault. And not to mention just the Vraska threatening to kill Chain of the Rocks. Vraska's just insane. I just want to point out how much I love that card and how much work it's doing in just this game. It's already taken a shot from a Skullcrack. It's threatening to invalidate multiple cards out of Vincent's deck. His next creature is going to get destroyed unless it's a Stormbreath Dragon, and even if it's Stormbreath Dragon, it's just it can't attack Vraska and then just gets minused out of the game basically. So
yeah, it can be kind of a Fire Blast impersonation at best. As there's a Chandra's Phoenix that's going to show up to the party now. That's going to go attack, and we'll see where it's going to go. If it's going to go towards Vraska, in which case it would die, or if it's going to go up top.
Yeah, it's going up top. Michael's going to 14 or killing it. Killing it's not a terrible play here. Conserving your life total, and Vincent's already shown that he is willing to throw burn spells at Vraska, so it's very likely he's out of gas, and that means that you just want to preserve your life total, keep battling with your Mutavault, and hopefully just make sure Vraska is able to ultimate next turn.
Mutavault comes across for 2 there from Vincent. Now here's another Chandra's Phoenix off the top. It's going to come across for 2. Devour Flesh is going to take care of that one. We want assassins. We want assassins. I know we already have an assassin because Mutavault's in play, but we want assassins.
That's a good point. Wait, does that work with Vraska, or do only the assassins have the ability?
I'm pretty sure only the assassins have the ability. It's actually on them.
Good.
Oh my goodness, we are doing assassins. Oh, I like the spotter has the 3 tokens available immediately.
Yeah, that's insane. I can't imagine there have been too many Vraska ultimates on camera over the last decade.
That's it. The assassins are going to get the job done.
Let him attack.
Have
some class. Let him attack.
Segal is going to tie it up here between him and Lakey. I didn't expect to see that. Now, we've seen some crazy things today. We've seen multiple Bramble Crushes be cast during a game from Chris Fennell. We see Assassin tokens getting the job done now at the 7-1 table.
Yeah.
I like what we're working with in Standard.
Yeah, I mean, The fact that you brought up Bramble Crush actually just makes me really happy because I was playing the Green Blue Devotion deck a few weeks ago in
That's
Nashville.
what Fennell was playing, yeah.
And my opponents played Underworld Connections on their land. Unbeknownst to them, I had Bramble Crush at the ready.
That is a delight. That's what we call a 2-for-1 in the business.
Well, assuming they didn't get to draw a card. But
yes. Yeah, that was a nice little play there. As we are even up here in round number 9 of our standard open. We'll see how players opt to sideboard here. But, you know, as someone who plays mono black, obviously you don't play the green version very much, and with 2 Grand Prix top 8s with the deck, how do you feel about playing against a deck that's kind of this aggressive red deck when you're playing mono black?
Well, if they have the draw like they had in game 1, it can be a nightmare if your deck, or if your hand is full of creatures and not full of removal spells. That game, Michael's hand was really well set up against creatures, and Vincent did not draw very many, so he was able to very easily take control of the game, and basically any finisher at that point would have been fine. Like Desecration Demon would have been fine because he had Golgari Charm to kill Chain to the Rocks, and actually probably would have won the game a little bit faster than the Assassin tokens, though with not nearly as much flair.
That's true. That's true, and that's really what's important.
Yeah, I mean, you got to look cool on camera, and Michael's looking like a champion right now, so.
Yeah, I don't know if we're going to see these mono red decks or base red aggressive decks pick up at all or not. Again, Satyr Fire Dancer is a unique card. I know Brad tried to work with it to a little success, but nothing really all that notable. And then Searing Blood, well, it's fine. I mean, dealing 2 damage to something isn't the same as dealing 3.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, I think that they know better than to reprint Searing Blaze.
Yeah.
In general, I mean, Searing Blood is not even remotely close to as powerful, and I think that if Searing Blood is in the format, then red decks would actually just be murderous, you know?
It could be much better. I mean, the fact that they can actually kill Nightveil Spectre and things would be really, really nice.
Yeah, I mean, the whole point of Fire Drinker Satyr in general is, or not Fire Drinker, Satyr Fire Dancer in general is that all of your burn spells that go to the dome are also Searing Blazes, right?
Yeah.
Like your Skull Cracks kill creatures, and that was one of the reasons why Brad was trying to play Satyr
Fire Dancer.
Satyr Fire Dancer.
I got you.
Well, I keep looking at Fire Drinker Satyr out of Lakey's sideboard, and you know they're both satyrs. They're both fiery.
They are both very fiery.
Yeah, so,
that's because they're red. Just so that you know, I could work for Wizards. I could design cards. Fire something.
Yeah.
Breathing. It doesn't matter. Blast. Burn. It's easy.
Yeah. I was actually very surprised that Dissolve was not a card name already. It just, like, when I saw that Dissolve was getting printed, I was like, hey, it's another counterspell. Really? Dissolve hasn't been counterspell yet?
That's a little surprised,
there's
yeah.
Dissipate, there's, you know, all sorts of Ds.
Well, apparently the English language is very vast. So that's always one of my fears is, are we going to run out of cards?
Why don't we use it well enough? That's
I don't know.
I
don't know. I always wonder if we're going to run out of, names for cards. There's a lot of cards coming for the next couple of years here.
Yeah, that's true. All right. Well, looks like we're about to get underway here. I think from what I saw at least, I think Michael's hand might be a little mana light, but he's got a lot of Gray Merchants, maybe a few removal spells. Thoughtseize?
Yeah, he left it in.
There we go.
So let's take a look here at Lakey's hand. You see a Sacred Foundry, a Temple, a Mountain, a Lightning Strike, and a Chandra's Phoenix. So not a bad hand.
No, I think Michael's probably going to take the Lightning Strike here because if he takes the Chandra's Phoenix, Vincent can just Lightning Strike him on 2, get back the Phoenix, and then attack with it on turn 3. So, if Michael's hand has a few removal spells in it so that he can keep this Fire Drinker Satyr and hopefully the Chandra's Phoenix from doing him too much damage, he does have what it looks like a Nightveil Spectre and a Gray Merchant of Asphodel in hand to hopefully come back later in the game and sort of take control, which is obviously exactly what this kind of a deck wants to do against these more aggressive red decks.
Mutavault was the draw here for Lakey, and I think he can play Mutavault, pump Fire Drinker Satyr, and come in, but he opts to play Mountain instead.
Yeah.
Past the turn.
I'm not sure like that. You're giving away a little less information that way. I guess he can just wait until next turn and play the Mutavault and then cast Chandra's Phoenix, so it's not too much different. Boros Charm here, the draw for Vincent, and Michael's already at 15. He's got a Bioblight. He's going to be going to 13 here after the damage, but then the Mutavault and another 2-power creature maybe gets brick-walled by the Nightveil Spectre, but also probably going to have to shock himself off his Overgrown Tomb in hand as well. So, but draws the Swamp like a true master
for his Nightveil Spectre. So that's a huge swing in the game.
Yeah. Now, it looks like Michael's hand has multiple Gray Merchants, a Mutavault, and an Overgrown Tomb. So if he's able to survive for a few more turns, he's going to take control of the game. Nightveil Spectre does a great roadblock impression here.
Foul Flesh not looking so bad either. He can target, obviously, Vincent or himself.
Yeah,
a little bit of life.
The problem here is that Vincent does have the Boros Charm in hand, so the Devour Flesh not going to do a whole lot other than just buy 2 damage, basically. But that might be enough to just let him chain Gray Merchants to just grind Vincent into the ground. His deck can't really handle those 5-point life swings. You know, he can only be so aggressive against these removal spells. And then Michael's obviously trying to gain this board advantage with Night Vale Spectre and then eventually close the game out. And even if it's just a motley crew of 2-power creatures, it's usually going to be good enough if he has enough removal spells.
You know, there are some red decks that can actually take, you know, the swings of a 5-point life gain from the opponent. You know, we've seen versions that have, like, you know, Ashenmore Gorger in the past, things like that. This is not one of those red decks.
Yeah, an interesting attack here from Vincent. I feel like he has 2 Boros Charms in hand, and I think what he's trying to do is, I thought he was going to try to double strike the Mutavault to kill the Night Vale Spectre. However, it looks like he's just trying to grind as much damage as possible. But Michael here going to drain for 5, and next turn going to do the same thing except for 7, and it looks like he's just going to close the game out very quickly. And I fully expect Michael to jam here for 2 with the Night Vale Spectre to hopefully close Vincent's life total a little faster. But taking the defensive route here, decides to hold back to protect from the Phoenix. Not a bad play.
You see the Boros Charm here on the instep. It's going to knock Segal down to 12 now. Lakey's starting to flood out a little bit, and I kind of use the term flood, you know, a little bit cautiously here, mostly because, like, you know, if this deck draws more than 4 lands, it's in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
It's so important for them to draw a high number of spells, and Lakey's deck has 24 lands in it. That's a lot of lands for this side of this sort of, you know, hyper-aggressive red deck that we see.
Yeah. Pretty surprised here that Vincent didn't block with his Chandra's Phoenix. I know that the 2 damage doesn't matter all that much, but with the Boros Charm in hand, that feels like with so many lands in play and an extra land in hand still, having that Boros Charm to get back the Chandra's Phoenix to save yourself 2 points of life could matter, especially now the Gray Merchant's going to come down next turn, and there are a lot of creatures in play on Michael's side.
You see Vincent drew another land for the turn, so he's sitting with just the Boros Charm as his only spell. And I like what Michael's done here is, you know, he could have played another Gray Merchant last turn if he wanted to, but he's really, you know, kind of a little slow build up here to a huge Gray Merchant.
Yeah, I mean, he made a calculated decision that it was pretty unlikely that Vincent was going to burn him out from 12, and you know, now he's just going to attack and play Gray Merchant and finish him off.
So Michael Segal is going to win this match over Vincent Lakey 2-1. Black-Green Devotion does defeat Red-White Aggro. And with any luck for Segal, he'll be able to draw into the top of the next round, depending on breakers and all that good stuff. But, you know, we don't see Black-Green Devotion a lot.